Now, when I was teaching some of these people over the years, all of them have come away with different understanding of just what it was that I was doing, how it was that I was doing it. And I would like for you to understand something. That's an important thing to understand when you're thinking about all the ways you would learn when you were a little child. You would be back in that place so long ago. And when you were a little child, there would be that moment when you would understand that you were about to understand something. And you remember what it was like the first time that you began to know and understand what it would be like to tie your shoes. As you think about that moment, you can think about all the efforts you made and all the ways you tried and all the ways you did it until finally, one day, you tied a perfect bow. And that doesn't mean that every bow you've ever tied since that time is perfect. But since that time, you know how to tie that bow in just the right way. And if you spend the time, you can do it in just the right way. Because those things are still inside of you now. Because all the things that you've learned, really learned at the deepest level, those things stay with you all the days of your life. So easily, so comfortably floating to the surface. Because you allow yourself to enjoy the process of feeling what it's like when the things that you know how to do at the deepest level, why they simply come up into your hands right now. You find yourself having the notion of how easily you can do the things that make everything work in only the right way, to find only the right patterns, to find your fingers moving and the hands moving in only the right way, so that you do only the right things in all the best ways from that deep place so easily now. That's right. That's right. And when I was teaching those boys and those girls who came to learn with me, I'm reminded of something that I once heard from my friend John. My friend John, he told me a story once about a teacher in the ancient Orient. And one day, when he and his students wanted to observe beauty, the old teacher knew and understood that in the night, on that night, there would be a perfect and beautiful full moon. And the old teacher had seen that there was not a cloud in the sky. It was crystal clear. wanted to understand truth and beauty in such a powerful way. The old man, the old teacher pointed at the moon and wordlessly gazed at his students. And he noticed that they were intently gazing at his finger. Now I wonder just how long it will be before you look past the finger and look into the crystal clear night, into that thing, to that place where truth and beauty lies reflect deep within you now. That's right. And April Fools, everybody. Have a happy April Fools, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, brilliant. So, yeah, everybody listening to this, it's me, Antonio, with HawaiiHypnosis.org, and I've got my friend Michael Perez, an awesome Milton Erickson impersonator. How did you get to a point where you could mimic his voice? Was it just a lot of practice?
Well, the thing is that it was a lot of sitting down, listening to Erickson, and and then basically soaking that stuff in like a sponge, not making any judgments about it, not making any analysis of it, putting aside all the shit that I had heard about what he supposedly was doing, and just treating it like I was like an alien from outer space, or I was like a baby or whatever, just pretending I don't know anything about this man. And I'm just going to sit and listen. I'm not going to make any judgments. And going into a state of consciousness, because, the thing is, we're always trying to form patterns. There are certain states of consciousness where you don't do this. So understanding what the configuration of a state of consciousness where you don't do that is like for you, and then going into that place, a place where you're soaking it all in, but you're not consciously doing the stuff, right? So the thing is I went ahead and I spent a long time with the material, going over it over and over again, and then at some point, I felt like it was almost like it was coming out of me to do the thing that I had been exposing myself to. And, I don't know, I imagine that you're sitting down watching somebody play basketball, and you're out there and you just, after a while, you feel the urge to grab the ball and play because you feel like you could do that. Okay, so that was essentially it. I just, I soaked it in. Again, the real trick is, if you've never played basketball before in your life, even if you feel that urge, you're not going to be able to play basketball. But since what Erickson was doing was talking and having conversations, and since that was something that I'd done all my life, then it was easy enough. So then it was just a matter of, just deciding that I was going to do everything rather than leaving anything out. So the first thing was, for example, Erickson couldn't breathe very well. And so I had to find a place where my breathing was shorter. Now, Erickson's physiology was also in a way that he moved differently. He couldn't sit straight exactly right. He leaned off to the side a little bit. And so breathing the way that he breathed, with a certain shortness of breath, holding my body in this way, also meant that it was rasping against my throat. Now, once I started talking this way, and I had to pause to breathe at a certain rhythm, because I couldn't breathe very deeply, and there was a certain rasp in my voice. Then I had to think about some of the ways in which he would hold his mouth, because his mouth could not hold his false teeth. So his mouth was shaped differently to the way that most people hold their mouths. And again, this was not my doing the analysis. The analysis came later. But I began to think about the way that his accent worked and how he had an accent that sounded a certain way. And I just noticed myself talking in that way. And it was very natural. And I started to notice that there was a certain way that he spoke, a certain kind of music to the way that he spoke. And when I began to realize that all of these things came together in a way that allowed me to operate very similar to the way that Dr. Erickson would operate. And when I began to have this experience of breathing this way and holding my mouth this way and allowing myself to know and to understand exactly the way that Milton Erickson might know and understand something in the way that he talked and in the way that he interacted with the people in his world, then I found that it became very easy for me to help people to learn, really learn how to go into a very deep place now where you can understand something new about how you can go into a trance very easily. That's right. So that basically was like that.
that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. But it's just, it's about making those subtle distinctions, And now, again, I didn't do the analytical process. I wasn't sitting there going, oh, didn't have his false teeth in. Oh, couldn't breathe because 2/3 of his diaphragm wasn't working. That stuff was not what was, that analytical process came later. I just had to start doing it. And then after I was doing it, then I could analyze what it was, because now I was doing it personally. See, I can't go in. The thing about you, Antonio, is that you've got a brain and I've got a brain, right?
Yep.
And your brain is not my brain, and my brain is not your brain. So if I want to analyze something deep in your brain, I cannot do it because I don't have your brain. It's not in my head. What I can do, though, is I can use all these deep neurological methods that we have for connecting with one another at a very deep level, and I can use that as a way of reproducing what you're doing on an instinctive level inside myself. And then I can ask myself, am I getting the results that Antonio's getting when I act the way Antonio's acting? When the answer is yes, it really doesn't matter if what I'm doing is exactly what you're doing. It's close enough that it's getting your result. Then I can start analyzing, what is this for me? And then I can go, oh, it's the way I'm holding my body. Oh, it's the way I'm breathing. Oh, it's the way, it's some of the other thinking that's going on in my head. It's where I'm looking. It's all this other stuff. And so that starts to become very important. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I noticed the gradual progression. I was like, it's kind of hitting me. I was like, oh, okay, I see what he's doing. And then I kind of felt myself, and I'm just staring off into space. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I was like, I think I'm just going to close my eyes. And then I kind of laughed on the inside. I'm like, wow, it's almost like I've got Erickson talking to me. This is kind of interesting.
Yeah.